All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Devices to Dollars, episode number 2. I've got with me Jason Holmes of US Fit Clinic, located in Corpus Christi, Texas. Jason, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So the reason I wanted to bring you on is, obviously you're a fairly new customer of ours. You've been open for almost 4 months now. Is that right?
About a little over 6, actually.
6. Well, time flies. You hit. I think we've already spoken about it, but for those that don't know, you hit some pretty record months, almost close to 47,000 in 1 month. So, congratulations.
Hey, thank you so much. That was
man. Love to hear that. Very cool. So the whole purpose of this is really just, the platform is just to create an educational, piece where other clients can come in and learn from what you're doing, since you're doing so well, and the whole purpose is just to learn from each other. So I've got some questions formulated. We may deviate from those just a bit, but I'll stick to these. And if you're ready, we can just jump right in.
Sure, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to talk sales strategy, and my first question is, if you could just walk us through your full patient journey from first contact to the closing of the package. What specifically changed in that month where you're able to hit 47,000?
Yeah. So I think we got initially when we opened, we were just a weight loss clinic back in March, April of earlier this year. And so we were transitioning over to being more than that. We were doing the GLP-1 shots and things like that and tracking patients' progress over the first couple of months. But there's this ongoing issue that I think you've probably heard a lot, which is as people lose weight, and especially the accelerated weight loss that you have on these newer medications, there's a lot of issues with skin sag. There are issues where they need to work out, but if nothing else, and then they need to really build muscle and fix that skin. And so that's why we added the machines. And I think initially we didn't really know what to expect or how to package these with what we were already doing. But as we got more comfortable with it, we had a couple of decent months where we had a few packages sold here and there, but we got our process down to where we were able to really articulate the value, identify the problem, which is, okay, great, I'm losing weight, or I've already lost all of this weight, but I've got this other cosmetic issue. And when we have a real solution, I think that's the biggest challenge is presenting the client with a solution that actually works. And I was really skeptical. I tried the devices myself and saw the results. And so I think when the whole team kind of believes in something, it makes it a lot easier to present that value. And so our process is really, a client may come in on a specific offer, but what we really want to talk about is, where do you want to be in 6 months? What are your goals? How do we get you there? Can we get you there realistically? Those types of things, and walk through that process with them.
Love that. Yeah, there's, it's like the page, you were just speaking about how, like the GLP-1s, and there's the sagging skin after they lose the weight, and it's like such a frustrating journey for a lot of people that are on GLP-1s, and then, they're working towards their goal of getting that confidence and that body shape back. And then they had this final hurdle, it's like they've completed the journey so far, and they really just need that extra little push to get where they want to be. And that's kind of where the devices really come into play. And I love that, how you articulate the value to them and really show like, hey, we're going to address your concerns, and here's why the services will be valuable to you. I love that. What objections did you hear that you no longer hear? Like, what objections did you hear before that kind of changed with how you handled them?
Well, because we were new, we didn't have any case studies to use. We had to rely on what we knew the science was. We had to rely on kind of the stock imagery that we had. So we didn't really have anything to compare it to. Now that we've got examples. I mean, if somebody's got an issue with arms, we've probably got somebody who's had the same problem. If we're talking about the stomach or another body part, we can we can go back and say, okay, this is what worked for this other patient, and actually show them that. So the objections kind of, the walls come down. I would say. I think the biggest objection that you're always going to have is, can they afford it?
Yeah.
Can they feel, or do they feel like they can afford it? Part of that is, what kind of cash on hand do they have, but also offering really good financing options. And we have financing options for just about everyone here. So we've got, a care credit option. We've got Cherry. We do some in-house financing when those two don't work for some reason. So yeah, I mean, it's we have a lot of different people, types of people who come in the clinic, and they're from every socioeconomic background. So we try to work through that. We've had a few people who are like, oh, there's no way this works. And for some people, it might not work. If they're just, 100 or 200 pounds overweight, then they need to do something else. They need to address that first, and then maybe we can help them after they do some other things. But so we're very honest with our patients about that, whether or not, we're going to see results. And surprisingly, sometimes there are folks who are like, you know what, I know it might not help that much as I hope that it would, but I want to do it anyway.
Oh yeah.
And we've had some surprising results with some of those. I mean, it's never going to melt away, 40 or 50 pounds worth of actual fat mass, but it's going to help the skin look better, even in those instances. So.
Right. Exactly. And I love that, leading with honesty, because that goes, especially in marketing, that just builds the rapport with the patient, and that leads to word of mouth, et cetera. And then, like, I know you've mentioned expectations before, which we can touch on a little bit later, but definitely setting those and being honest about them up front, to where they're surprised with the results is a better thing than over promising and under delivering. Right.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about the marketing, because I think everybody's kind of curious. What changed in your marketing message, if anything, to make people say yes, or to start booking like these lots of appointments?
Yeah. So I come from a marketing background. I own an agency as well, which helps a ton. Can't lie to you on that. But we've also partnered with subject matter experts to get offers out there that resonate. And I think the journeys kind of goes like this. You'll have folks who want to try it. So you have let's try this thing before making a huge financial commitment. That's kind of what the initial offer is. It's a lower price to come in and get a treatment. And then while they're here and they see, a lot of times people do see some results after the first treatment. That's when we talk through their longer term goals. Where do you want to be in the next few months? What is there an event that you have coming up that you want to look your best for? Is there how would you feel if you were able to reach those goals, and kind of dream with them a little bit? You got to have that conversation. Yeah. And then once they get to thinking that way, that's when it just, the choice to move forward with a package or a longer term solution just becomes the end of a conversation. It's the natural end of that conversation. And then we talk through how they're going to pay for it, and how when we can get them scheduled next. Because most people who come in and they go through the sessions, they want it. It's just whether or not they can justify the value versus the package and those types of things.
Makes sense. Love that. If you had to rebuild your marketing from scratch tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would do?
Really work on that initial offer. We found offers that we thought would work that didn't, and we've had offers that, it's things that sound kind of funny. Like we have one right now that's a mummy tummy rescue, which I've never heard of that before. We've got that one out there, but that seems to resonate with a lot of people. And it's like, okay, I've got the scars of bearing children. Let me address that now, and that offer gets people in, gets them through the door. They want to find out what it's about. And I think the fact that it's a non-invasive process really resonates with a lot of people. I mean, they don't want to go under the knife. They don't want to have that long downtime. It's a healthier option for them because they're doing things like, burning fat and building muscle. And we really hit on all of those kind of highlight those those features of the process, the treatments in the marketing. We make sure that we're out in front. Okay, it's a low entry level price for the first treatment. They're coming in and they're able to try it, and they can feel something, they can see something right away, and there's no downtime. It's non-invasive. They can get right back to, and if they want to leave here and they're going to go to the gym, they can still do that. There's not any reason that it's going to get in the way of their everyday life. So those are things that we hit in the marketing as well, and in those messages, because the worst possible thing you can do is you go through this process of losing weight, you get back in shape, and you're like, okay, I don't like how this skin looks, or I don't like how this other part of my body looks, and you go under the knife, and then what happens? You've got a recovery time.
Yep.
What happens during recovery?
Gain all the weight back.
You gain some weight. You don't get back into the gym. You're not eating as well as you should, and then before you know it, you've defeated the whole purpose. So, talking through that with patients, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it totally. I mean, that totally makes sense. Just to walk them through that whole process and all the benefits. It's super costly. It's very invasive. I mean, it's completely uncomfortable. Your body's altered from that point on for the rest of your life. And like you said, there's a ton of downtime, and that's weight rebound. It's like the recipe for a weight rebounding. You pretty much nailed the head on the nail on the head with that one. Cool. So now let's talk a little bit about packaging. How did you design your packages, and kind of like talk me through like what exactly a package looks like? Like, do they come in, do they buy a one-off, or is it in conjunction, or is it a membership? And then,
right now we are not doing memberships. That's something that we're looking at. But what we do right now is, after that initial consultation, we get a better idea of what those goals are, and then we can kind of design a package around them. We have some kind of what we call off-the-shelf packages built out, which include the new firm and the new form machines. So basically, do they need to just burn a little bit of fat and build muscle? Well, we've got packages that include, say, 4 sessions of each machine, and then we mix those up based on what they really need. There are folks who need to burn the fat first, and we'll front load those with new form packages, and then on the back end we'll use the new form to do the muscle building. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what they need. If the further away they are from their goal, the longer that or larger that package is going to be. And then we'll combine that with GLP-1s or a nutrition program, or even an exercise program, and put it all together as one plan and really get their buy-in. Because if you don't have their buy-in, it's not going to work.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I really love how this whole message is kind of centered around what the patient actually needs and wants, and envisioning that with them, versus this is our package, it's the same for everybody. I think a lot of our customers would like me to hand them a sheet that says charge this, and this, and here's how you do everything. But unfortunately, it's the same in marketing. There's no one size that fits all. So I really, really love how you kind of focus on the patient journey, what the patient needs, and then everything else will fall into place around that. I think that just makes the most sense. What do you wish you had set up sooner that would have made growth easier? And this could be in terms of like tracking, scripts, automations, tools.
Well, it's all still a work in progress. I mean, tracking is the big one. We are tracking, leads, calls, conversions, all of that in a dashboard. I think really the thing that I wish I'd done initially is that we have done now is separating the folks on the team who are providing the service with the sales process. And so what I mean by that is we have someone what we call an aesthetics consultant who deals with guest relations. When they come in, she's the one that's going to greet them, very personable, has that conversation with the client, that kind of a getting to know you session, where she's going to walk through, okay, tell me about what you're trying to accomplish. It's not just about you coming in on this one offer, because that doesn't solve even if you love your session today and you go through it, you're not reaching all of your goals, right? So she's going to walk through like everything they're trying to accomplish physically, and understand that. Then they're going to go ahead and get cleared with a provider for the actual treatment. They have the treatment. Then after that treatment, which is 30 to 45 minutes, they're back with our aesthetics consultant, who then handles the consult and the close. So as they're being treated, it's a different person. It's the person who's doing the treatment, it has all that information relayed to her. They do the treatment. They're personable as well, but they don't talk about price. They don't talk about price. They don't talk about scheduling. They don't talk about anything like that, other than if they're a great candidate for more sessions, then that's going to be part of the conversation. It's like, okay, look, this is what we were able to do in this session. This worked really well. You see how this was lifted, or you see how the skin responded here. We're doing our before and after photos, and they'll have that conversation about, you're a really great candidate for this process, but they're not going to sell it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, church and state kind of thing, where I'm all about your results. Over here, we're going to talk to you about reaching those results and what it's going to take financially to do that. Yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, that's a lot of the feedback we've gotten is like, that's such an important part of the process. And, the treatment provider should they need to be able to focus on the treatment, right? It's a lot to get somebody in the room to be talking about upselling while you're doing the treatment rather than focusing on the treatment. It might come off as a little false to the patient. And I'm sure that helps with workload too, like having two distinct, the separation of the two. It would seem like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would seem like you're able to take on like, $47,000 in a month, which is probably a lot of volume. So I'm sure that allowed you to take in that volume without it being too chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of volume compared to the couple of months before that. And when we split those roles, that's really when we were able to, the providers don't have the pressure of talking about price and packages.
Yeah.
And the aesthetic consultant doesn't need to really concern themselves with setting up the room and, walking through how they're going to do the treatment. So, not that if it's an off day or something like that, and one of them can pinch hit and walk through the pricing if we have to do that, but we just really don't do that anymore.
Sure. Awesome. Love it. Okay. Just moving on a little bit. What is the biggest mistake you see other practice owners make that would keep them from achieving their goals?
Okay. So I've talked to a lot of folks in this industry who think that just by buying a machine, that patients are going to and clients are going to just line up out the door to hand them money, hand over fist, right? And okay, I bought the machine, it should be making me money. Why isn't this machine making me money? You've got to make a real commitment to marketing, and you've got to make a real commitment to being different than your competitors. What's the opportunity here? Is there an opportunity in the space to be the friendly location? Is there an opportunity in the space to be the flexible location? Is there a niche that you're missing? What sets you apart? You've got to tell that message, and you've got to be confident enough in your services to market them. You've got to get them out there. So, minimum for me, and you can work with a lot of different marketing companies, things like that, but it all depends on the market. But you've got to be willing to spend $100, $200 a day on meta ads or Google or some place, and then scale from there to drive those leads, because it is a numbers game. You're going to get 400 leads and maybe 50 booked appointments, and maybe you're going to close 10 of those on a larger package. And you've got to understand that. There's good marketing companies and bad marketing companies, but none of them can run your business for you. And none of them can actually come into your clinic and close those. So you've got to be set up to do that.
Man, I love that. There's so many like key points of advice there. Nobody's going to run your clinic for you. And then thank you for throwing out those numbers, those specific numbers. I know so many people wonder like, what's budget? $100 a day is an absolutely great budget to start with. And that's, like you said, it's a numbers game, and then converting after they come in is a whole nother step in the process. I think that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, because that really gives people like, when they have a tangible number to something to kind of work off of. I know like a lot of people think like, no, they'll even start up an ad campaign and they're spending like $10 to $20 a day and nothing's hitting, or they might get one or two. I'm like, yeah, but that's because you're just, either, I mean, there's so many variables, like you said, you have to constantly test and rerun different ads, but you got to have the budget and be willing to scale from there once you start getting the sales coming in or the showings.
Yep. And I'll dive a little deeper on that if you'd like.
Please.
So, and I work with other industries as well with my agency, and we run into this across the board. If you're in a market of 150,000 or more people, $100 per day for just about any industry in Meta, that's just table stakes. You have to be there. Your media budget has to start there. You can also, from that point, when you scale, you can overspend. And when you overspend, it can actually hurt the campaign as well. The Meta's a fickle beast, right? Yeah. But that's where most of your low-hanging fruit, most of your leads are going to come from. You're looking for 80% female, over the age of 30. That is where they're spending their time. They're spending their time on Meta-owned properties like Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. And you've got to have a campaign set up that grabs them right then, that is a scroll stopper to get their information and then get those people booked. And then I would scale kind of slowly. That was one mistake we probably made, is that in the following months, we amped those campaigns up a little too hard, and Meta tanked those campaigns. I mean, it's really weird. You spend more and you get less, and then really with some of the new updates, it's more about changing the creatives out more often, getting more creative with those, changing the wording up, and then what you find when you find what works, then slowly ramping those up. But if you're going into it, I mean, even if there might be some markets where you can do $50 a day and be successful, and move the needle a little bit. But if you're just doing things, one of the worst things I hear from a customer is, and we had one in a completely different industry last week, that this is a customer who came to our agency and they said, we want to scale from $5 million to $10 million next year. We said, great, we can help you do that. And we put together all of the recommendations, right? And they decided, well, we're not going to do Meta. We're just going to do Google. And they're still spending like, $15,000 a month in total marketing. Wow. But they're leaving out Meta. And we know that's not going to work. But we're helping them. We're going to help them as much as we can reach their goals. But you've got to take the advice of the marketers that are in the space. Yeah. And leverage what is working. That's why on our side of the business, in this particular business, I'm not running that through our agency and our that I own, because that's not our specialty, right? Yeah. Our specialty is other things. So make the commitment to marketing. If you don't, you've got nobody to blame but yourself. So that's my advice.
Absolutely love that. One thing I know that people kind of have mentioned in the past, that besides the sales process, there's actually just getting people to show up that have committed. What do you all do to ensure that the bookings actually show?
Yeah, so that is a huge one. There are two main things. One is collect a deposit up front. We collect a $20 or $29 deposit depending on the offer. So
pretty small.
Very small, but it's enough for them to,
have some skin
to show up most of the time. They have at least they have some skin in the game. Also, we have a $50 no-show fee that is explained over the phone. So if they book the appointment and they don't show up, we're going to charge them. $50. So that's we've got their credit card information, things like that, which we don't really want to do that, but that's just it's a space on our calendar that somebody else could be using. So that's one thing. The other thing is to keep your calendar kind of a little bit tighter so that they can't book 2 to 3 weeks in advance.
Okay, love that.
At least not easily. Like I can do it over the phone if they talk to someone, something like that, because people forget. One thing that I have noticed in my other businesses, everything I've done has been B2B. I am not built for B2C, working with consumers, and my team is much better at it than I am. But what I've noticed is that consumers don't read their email. They do not read their email. They do not respond to email. Text messages are much better, and we use text message, reminders and email reminders for appointments and things like that. But when you let them book too far in advance, it seems like it just gets forgotten.
Yeah.
So that's a big one.
Yeah, I love that, keeping it tight. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The human brain it's so quick to forget. And I love the prepayment, obviously the no show fee, just because they're wasting everyone's time. They're filling that slot that could have been filled with somebody else's with another patient. So I love that. These are all super, super helpful. I think a lot of people get value from this. One or two more questions here. So just let's talk a little bit about re-engagement. Are you doing any type of re-engagement with customers? Anything to get them back in? I know you're not doing a membership just yet, but how does that work out?
Yeah. So what we are doing is, once they've finished whatever the package is, well, let me back up. We try to talk with them. If let's say they have 10 sessions, we mark it in their file so that on that 9th session, we have the conversation about how far they've come.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So we have that conversation on the 9th session to see where they're at, if they're happy with the results, if what they're doing to work with what we're doing, because they have to work with it as well. Diet, exercise, hydration, all of that. So we have that conversation, and then we move them into the discussion of a maintenance package. And we've been pretty successful with that. Not everybody, but probably 30% or so have moved on to maintenance packages. And then we've got a lot of folks who have said, yeah, I'm going to continue this. I know it's helped me. I'm happy with where I am. Or folks who said, especially, we had one lady with arms who the results were just incredible. And she's like, nah, I'm done. I'm done at least for a year. I'm going traveling, and I'm going to go do other things. So since we're more of a clinic setting than a med spa setting, the membership model doesn't really fit everything that we're doing right now. But we're adding some services that may work for later.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, Jason, thank you so much, man. That was actually my last question. You hit every topic pretty much so well, and I really, really thank you so much for sharing all of your insights. If there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, I mean, it's bet on yourself, bet on your team, and don't be afraid to pull the trigger on a good marketing plan, because that's we're heading into January. This stuff's going to be hot. It's a little slower this month, I think, but I think going into January, it's going to be all hands on deck. So
yeah, new year, the whole
yep.
Whole thing. Exactly. Christmas and the holidays is usually pretty slow. Everybody's eating, and then they'll be ready to get a new body come January.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
awesome, Jason. Again, thank you so much. Looking forward to working with you more in the future, and hopefully we can do another one of these when you hit $100,000 a month.
That'd be awesome. We hope to do it. Thanks
All
a
right,
lot,
man. Thank you so much.